Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Hong Kong and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel many times before. Now, I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the years, a good few different styles, but if people were to ask me about this brewery, I would say that they are just very solid all round. I believe they are the biggest by volume craft beer producer here in Hong Kong, and they're very prolific actually in their output of different beers. So if you're interested in the Hong Kong beer scene, this is one of the breweries that you really need to check out. Now, this one that we're going to have a look at today is from a series of beers that these guys have been producing that is pretty interesting and pretty solid in my experience. I have tried this beer before, and I know it's pretty good, but I'm looking forward to doing a proper kind of sit down and thought out review of this one. So yeah, this should make for quite an interesting video. So hopefully the beer's as good as I remember, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head to a little place called Wong, Chuk, which is on the southern part of Hong Kong Island, and that means that we're going to have a look at yet another beer from the wonderful Young Master Brewery. So this particular beer is the second in their series of Hop Around the World. This is the USA edition. It comes in at 6% ABV, and this is a New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA. Now, as I've mentioned in other videos, Young Master release beers very regularly through Circle K, one of the kind of convenience store chains. For those of you who are not in Asia, think 7-Eleven. Circle K is, I guess, Asian 7-Eleven. But yeah, this one was released a month or two ago actually, and I managed to pick up a can. This one's been in my fridge for a little while. I just haven't really got around to filming these reviews actually. So yeah, not in its freshest condition, but these beers in my experience do actually tend to hold up pretty well. So yeah, the Hop Around the World, number 2 in the series, the USA edition, 6% New England hazy IPA from Young Master Brewery in Wong Chuk here in Hong Kong. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Young Master before, and we will no doubt add more to that list at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Hong Kong playlist along with a number of other things. That's being added to quite regularly at the moment, of course, as well. And you can check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, which I highly recommend that you do. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit once again about Young Master. So, Young Master Brewery was founded back in 2013 by Rohit Dugar, who is originally from New Delhi in India. But he moved from New York to Hong Kong back in 2011, and he worked for Goldman Sachs before deciding to quit and found his own microbrewery. So he was joined at the brewery by the German brewer Ulrich Altbauer, who had an extensive experience of brewing in China, and he was the master brewer, but sadly he died in 2016. So the current brew team is Edwin and Brian, who have both worked for Young Master for a number of years, and I think they worked under Ulrich for a very, very long time. And the first brewery they had was in Ap Lei Chau, and this facility had a 10 hectolitre brew house which acted as their main production until mid-2016. But they opened up a new brewery in Wong Chuk with a 40 hectolitre brew house from GEA in Germany, as well as having a larger barrel area and a fodder for producing sour beers. And this was actually the first for any brewery in Asia. But they brew around 15,000 litres of beer per month at the moment. That figure might be out of date. I will add that in there because their beer, the amount of cans you see from Young Master in Circle K's and things, it would not surprise me if it was actually more. But they have several tap rooms and restaurants and things these days. This includes TAP in Mong Kok, which I go to quite regularly. There's Second Draft in by Victoria Park in Causeway Bay. That's a really, really nice pub. They've got Pub 1842 in Central, and until very recently they had Alvy's in Kennedy Town, which did great pizza, but unfortunately that shut down. But they also have the Guild Bar down in Singapore these days as well. But they are the largest brewery by volume of production in Hong Kong, and the most decorated brewery too. As of March 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 270 different beers, and they employ around 20 people. And if people were to ask me about this brewery, I would say, you know, their lager beers are very good quality. The Märzen that they do in October is great. I also really like the 1842 double IPA. That's a pretty awesome one as well, actually. So yeah, definitely worth checking out this brewery if you get the chance. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Young Master Brewery for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on and have a little look at the beer itself. So like I said to you, this one is the second in the series of Hop Around the World beers that these guys have released. I'm not sure if they'll maybe do like a German one or an Australian one at some point. Slovenia would be an interesting one as well, actually. I'm not sure if they've thought about that. But yeah, the Hop Around the World series is quite an interesting one, and these beers are always pretty damn solid, actually. But yeah, you can see this one, really nice kind of colour scheme on the can there. I'll just put my face behind the can so the camera focuses on it. Little 330ml can this. I believe this cost like 23, 24 Hong Kong dollars, so that's about £2.30 sterling, maybe about, what, about €2.80, something like that, in the region of like $3 American, I guess, for this little can. 330ml. As we said, it's a 6% New England Hazy IPA. The hops in this one, according to the thing that's written on Untappd, are Simcoe, Citra, Mosaic, and there's Phantasm powder in here as well. But yeah, Simcoe is 12, all of these hops are American. Simcoe is 12% alpha acid. It's going to give you some really nice kind of passion fruity, soft passion fruity notes. Citra is quite an interesting one, very complex, can give you a bit of grapefruit, peach, passion fruit, mango, and it can also give you a wee bit of a kind of lemon limey character if you put it in a New England malt base. And Mosaic is 14% alpha acid, big kind of tangerine notes with quite a distinctive little bit of earthy character. The Phantasm powder that's in here is interesting because it's derived from Nelson Sauvin grape skins, and it gives you thiols and things like this, which are always give you a really kind of interesting, very juicy flavour in beers. But I'm surprised that's in there because, you know, Sauvignon Blanc grapes are from New Zealand, if I'm not mistaken. Not a wine aficionado by any stretch of the imagination, but yeah, interesting that they put that into the American edition of this beer. They did a New Zealand one as well, which has been or will be reviewed on the channel, so I'm not sure when exactly this video will publish, but keep your eyes peeled for that. But yeah, interesting. So I think that's everything we need to say about the beer. Let's get it out into the glass and see how we go on. Yeah, so just so you can see at the top of the can there, that is the Young Master Brewery symbol, and they've also got this the little thing here, the little trousers, pants, I think they prefer to call it at Young Master. You can see the this little symbol is another thing there. But yeah, really nicely presented can, this one. Let's get it out into the glass and see what it's all about. If I can actually get my finger under the thing, there we go. I need to put it on the hard floor to get it to work. I'm always scared if I put it on the table, I'm going to knock the camera over, and that's just going to be a pain. But yeah, let's get this guy out into the glass and see what it's all about. We'll give it a little bit of an aggressive pour. So there you are. Yeah, anyway, move it back over so that my OCD is happy. But yeah, anyway, as you can see, this beer is poured pretty much as you would expect from any New England hazy. So yeah, you can see there is just a little bit under a finger of a frothy, I would say, perfect white head there. It's got frothy bubbles in the base, kind of more bumpy bubbles the further up that you go. But yeah, appearance wise, it does look pretty nice. You've got, in terms of colour, I would say it's a lovely sort of bright mango juice type colour, this one. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. But that can, you don't really have to care about that all that often when it comes to IPAs of any description. But yeah, you can see the head has just faded away a little bit there. The level of haze in this one is kind of what you'd expect for a sort of 6%er. It's not the soupiest and gloopiest, but then it's not the clearest of beers either. You want that. But the level of haze in a New England IPA depends on the oak content, wheat content, and to a degree what yeast you use. So yeah, that can vary from brewery to brewery and beer to beer. But yeah, not too much in the way of visible carbonation with this one. One or two bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass and a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. But overall, it does look pretty nice. So yeah, I like that with this one. I do like how it appears, but I don't think we need to say anything more about that. Let's have a wee look at the aroma of this one then and see what it's all about. Quite a classic hop lineup in this one, of course, which I am very familiar with. So let's do the aroma of this one. Oh yeah, this smells really nice. Yeah, I will point out as well, this beer is not in its freshest condition because it's it's taken me a wee while to get around to filming these, but they hold up pretty well. It's been refrigerated for a long time. It should still be pretty good. Yeah, the backbone of this beer is it's really nice. It gives you everything you'd expect of a New England hazy. You've got a lovely little bit of maltiness in there, you've got the nice breadiness, the juicy fruity characters, and that little bit of green component. It's everything you'd want from the style. For me, it's a little bit more tropical leaning, but you do have that more orangey character to balance it out. But yeah, just an all-round very, very nice smelling beer. I mean, these ones that Young Master do for Circle K and things, these are by no means like the best beers that this brewery are going to do. They're always meant to just be really, really solid, and they don't disappoint. But that's the thing with Young Master as well, is they are quite a big by volume brewery, so it's all, it's kind of quality control for these guys as well. They have that sort of German quality control mentality, I guess you could say. So yeah, this is always worth bearing in mind when you try the Young Master stuff. They're supposed to be sessionable, drinkable beers that you can really revisit, and that's the impression very much that this one gives. So let's just break the aroma of this beer down then and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. So the backbone of this beer, you've got a lovely sort of fresh, white bready, hedgehog roll bread crust coming out of this one, which is great. Yeah, lovely kind of fresh hedgehog white bready bread crust in there. On top of that, you have you do get a little bit of like a kind of brown bready character coming out of this beer. So there's like a little bit of wholemeal brown bready character, but there's definitely a lot of like white bread in this one, and it's got a wee bit of sweetness to it. It's not it's not overly sweet, but yeah, I think the bready character that comes out of this certainly does have just a little touch of sweetness to it, and I like that. You can smell as well that this one has a little bit of oatiness and wheatiness, and as I've said in hazy IPA reviews before, I think there are 6 elements to think about when it comes to flavour and aroma in these beers. You have the sort of farmhousey, yeasty character, the rye leaning, grainy side of things. Those are a bit more common in American brewed New Englands. But then you've got wheaty bitiness, oaty creaminess, barley malt bread, and also sweetness. This beer is really leaning more towards being balanced between barley malt, wheat, and oat. That's the kind of thing that you've got going on in this one, and it is really balanced between those three. It doesn't lean any particular way. In the back of the nose, you do get a little bit of bitiness from the wheat, and you can also smell that the wheat is kind of densifying the white bready character that comes out of the beer. Likewise with the oats. The oats are doing a little bit of that as well. So you get a wee bit of creaminess from the oats, but you're also getting a wee bit of dryness in there as well. And as I've said on the channel before too, when it comes to the oaty side of a New England hazy IPA, the oats are usually a good indicator of how fresh your beer is. Essentially, the creamier they are, the fresher the beer is, the drier they are, the older it is. There or thereabouts. So yeah, you're getting a bit of creaminess out of this one and a little bit of dryness. And yeah, the way that all of that pieces together, I think, is really very, very nice. The malt base on this one is good. There is a slight touch of sweetness to this one, like a little bit of Werther's Original Butter Candy Butterscotch, but yeah, the way that all of that kind of just pieces together, I think, is really quite nice. A little bit of Werther's Original Butter Candy Butterscotch and just a little bit of a McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing. All things you'd expect from the malt base of a New England hazy, and it works out really quite well. On the hoppy side of things then, this one has a really nice, quite fresh green component. I think the phantasm that's in this is kind of making the green component seem a little bit wetter, and I've had one or two beers from Sweden that used phantasm, and I remember saying the same thing about the green component. But the green component for me in this one, you're getting a little touch of earthiness out of it, which is the little bit of earthiness that you get is from the mosaic for sure. There's a little bit of herbal character in there too, but you've got a little bit of a brighter floral aromaticity, but I feel this one leans more toward that wet grassy sort of thing, and I think that is the influence of the phantasm for sure. So yeah, the way this beer goes together in the green component is really quite nice. Makes it feel quite wet, very quite, really quite fresh. But remember, when it comes to hopping these beers, you have three kinds of hoppings that you can do. Early addition hopping, which takes place in the first hour of the wort boil, that gives you mainly bitterness and a deep dank green component aroma. Late addition hopping, which takes place in the last half hour of the wort boil, that gives you mainly a kind of bright green component in terms of aroma, but it can give you a wee bit of bitterness and a lot of flavour aroma. Then you've got dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete, and that gives you all flavour aroma, and again that translates to a very sort of bright green component as well. So yeah, the way that goes together, I think, is really quite interesting. So yeah, for me this one has a very kind of bright wet green component, but I think the phantasm is just making it feel and seem that little bit wetter. So yeah, it's interesting for sure. Let's have a wee look at the fruity side of things then with this beer. The fruitiness is kind of what you'd expect if you know these hops. You've got that lovely big soft passion fruity note from the Simcoe, that jumps out at me straight away. There's apricot, pineapple, mango. These are all things you can get from Citra. I'm not getting the more pungent side of Citra, the passion fruit and the grapefruit really. That doesn't come out in this beer that much. We'll see if it does in the flavour right enough. But yeah, there's a wee bit of the peach in the top of the nose right enough. But yeah. So yeah, passion fruit, pineapple. Yeah, did we say? Yeah, softer passion fruit in this one from the Simcoe. Juicy mango, apricots, pineapples from the Citra. A little tiny touch of peach in the top. But yeah, the more that I smell of this beer, the more of a presence mosaic seems to have. So yeah, that's quite interesting with this one, the way the mosaic sort of shows its face as well. Yeah, I really like that about this one. The aroma in this is very, very nice, and it's kind of typical with what you'd expect of a nice New England hazy. So yeah, can't knock this one in the slightest. So as I always say, take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck in, but I think it is about time that we taste this one now and see what it's all about. So yeah, this is the Hop Around the World number 2, American, USA, whatever we want to call it, from Young Master Brewery in Wong, Chuk here in Hong Kong. New England Hazy IPA at 6% ABV. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers, Gambe. yeah, this is pretty damn solid actually. First impression, having not had this beer for a long time, is that it's really smooth, really light and juicy, just a really easygoing, enjoyable IPA. And again, as I say, that's what you kind of expect from these Young Master Circle K beers. Yeah, I like it. Gets a thumbs up from me. Yeah. So, really soft and juicy for sure. On the middle third of the palate then, with this beer, let's look at that. It's always a good place to start. Middle third of your palate then. The backbone of this beer is that lovely kind of fresh hedgehog, white bready bread crust. As you move further forward, you get a little bit of woodiness coming out of it, which I think is nice. Then you've got that wholemeal, kind of sweeter, like wholemeal brown bready character. And then in fact, there's maybe a bit of cracker there. So yeah, the hedgehog bread crust, the wood, little layer of cracker. Then you get that wee bit of slightly denser and sweeter, a little bit of that more dense and sweet, kind of wholemeal brown bread, and then above that you have the kind of the more prominent white bready character. So the white bready note that you get out of this is again quite dense and quite smooth. Yeah, it's quite dense and quite smooth, and then you get the more dense wheaty character above this one. And the wheat's interesting because it has a little bit of a bite to it, and as I've said on the channel before, for me European wheat has a little bit more of a bite to it, whereas you know, American wheat's that little bit smoother, and this one has a bit of both. It's quite hard to place. I don't know how widely produced wheat is in mainland China, or, you know, I guess most of the malts that this brewery uses, because of the German brewer, I think most of them do come from Germany, but don't quote me on that. Australia's close by as well. But yeah, definitely the wheaty character in this one has a wee bit of bite toward the back of that middle third of your palate, but it's quite smooth the further forward you go. On the what do you call it? On the oaty side of things, the oats sit above the wheaty layer, of course, so you've got the nice kind of creamy oaty character that goes down the middle line of your palate, and as you move out toward the edges there, as you move out toward the edges of that middle third of your palate, yeah, you've got a little bit more of dryness. You've got a little bit more of the kind of dryness from the oats, which, as I say, becomes more prominent the further out toward the edges of the palate that you go. But yeah, it's really interesting actually. You've got the creamier oats down the middle of your tongue, and then the drier oaty character out toward the edges there. But in the dead centre of your palate, you've got a wee bit of a kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing. And yeah, I do like how that pieces together in this one. Like this, it's not too sweet, this beer. It really leans more toward the oat, the wheat, and the barley malt bread, and yeah, you know, having the combination of these. So yeah. So yeah, the way everything pieces together in this one, I think, is really quite nice. Yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about the middle third of the palate in this beer, to be honest with you. So yeah, let's have a little look at the back third of your palate. And as I've often said, the back third of your palate will give you very similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, just at you know, different intensities. So yeah, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get a little bit of the brown bread in the base, the white bread on top, and you can feel a wee bit of the more prickly wheat sitting on the top. The base of that back third of your palate, you've got yeah, the base of that back third of your palate, you've got the more kind of fresh hedgehog, white bready bread crust in there, absolutely. Then on top of that, you start to get you get the cracker again, which feels that little bit drier. Then you've got the brown bready layer, which feels a little bit lighter and more airy, and then the white bready layer, which feels a little bit lighter and more airy. And you can feel the wheat just creeping over the top of that, which is has a wee bit more of a kind of bitey character to it, which is quite interesting. So yeah, I like how all of that pieces together actually. Yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about the malty side of it, but above everything else on that back third of the palate, you're starting to get the yeasty side of the beer. So the yeasty side of things for me, you've got that sort of brown bready centre to it, and then you can feel the drier white bread around the edge, and then the more kind of crusty, crackery bread crust character. And as I say, that sits on top of everything else on that back third of the palate. So yeah, definitely the back third of your palate, you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, the way everything pieces together in the malty and yeasty side of things in this beer is really, really nice. So yeah, I like that about this one. I do like how that pieces together. Let's focus on the hoppy side of the beer then. Just from the way all the hoppy character comes out in this one, I think there is maybe a little bit of early edition hopping with this beer as well, because it does have a wee bit of bitterness to it actually. But yeah, in the back corners of the palate, you do get that little bit of earthiness in there, and as you move further forward, you can feel there's a little touch of herbal character, but it's quite wet as well, and then you get a bit of like wet leafy note in there, and I think that's the phantasm stuff that's doing that. But as you reach the front corners of the palate, it's a little bit more kind of floral and aromatic. There's a wee bit of spicy character there. Then round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy. So you've got that wee bit of grassy zestiness coming out of it too. So yeah, the way that that goes together, I think, is really, really nice. Yeah, I do like how that pieces together for sure. So yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about the the green component, to be honest with you. It gets a bit more zesty the further into the aftertaste that you go as well. So yeah, interesting. Let's go to the front third of your palate then, and the fruity side of things. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you've got a little bit of the brown bread in the base, the white bread on top, and the bit of the more kind of bitey wheat there. The base of that front third of your palate, there's a little bit of the kind of like fresh hedgehog kind of bread crusty character in there, the brown bread, the white bread. Then you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So yeah, let's have a wee look at that fruity side of things then, because I'm finding this beer is getting zestier and zestier the more that I drink of it, so that's quite interesting. Yeah, so the fruity side of the beer, if you know these hops, it's pretty much what you'd expect, to be honest with you. The fruity side of this beer for me, at the back of that front third of your palate, you can feel there is that wee touch of grapefruit, but very slight touch from citra. And as you move further forward from that, you start to get the passion fruit, and there's a wee bit of the more pungent peach. The peach comes from the citra as well, but the passion fruit in this beer is quite soft and juicy, and that's mostly coming from the Simcoe, no doubt in my mind about that. But as you reach the middle of that front third of your palate, you're starting to get like juicy mango in the middle, then the drier apricot-y notes underneath, and then a more kind of wet pineapple-y character sitting on top of it. So yeah, I like how that pieces together. That's quite nice. And yeah, as you go into the as you go into the front half of that front third of your palate, you start to get the more citrusy notes from the Citra. Pardon me, a little bit of gas there. And then also you're getting a wee bit more of the kind of orangey notes of the Mosaic as well. So underneath you can feel a bit of that lemon limey character from the Citra, and then you've got the more oily tangerine orange from the more oily tangerine orange from the Mosaic as well. Yeah, the way that that goes together is really very, very nice. Yeah, I think the more that I drink of this, it gets more, the orange really takes a back seat, and the more kind of lemon limey notes really push their way out. It's quite interesting in that sense. So you've got the soft tropical side of the Citra and the Simcoe sitting there, but then the Mosaic starts to take a back seat, the orangey notes, and then you get this really zesty kind of lemon limey note coming out of it. Didn't quite expect that from this beer, I have to say, but you know, interesting stuff for sure. I wonder if that's the Phantasm that's doing that a little bit. I don't know. But I would always expect, you know, when it's from grape skins, you would expect a wee bit more of a gooseberry note, which you do get the further into the aftertaste you go. And you know, that said, you know, when saying all of that, the you can get a bit of a gooseberry character from Citra sometimes. That's worth mentioning as well. But yeah, interesting beer for sure. Let's round off the review with a wee look at the mouthfeel then. So, mouthfeel wise, for me, it's kind of like right in the middle of the spectrum, mid-bodied, bottom end of mid-bodied. Carbonation does have a wee bit of a prickle to it, but it's quite wet and quite clean in a sense. You'll find that with Young Master beers, they always have that element of, you know, German sessionability to them. IBU wise, I think this is a fairly standard, like sort of 25-30 IBU New England. The malt base has a wee bit of dryness underneath, smoothness in the middle, and a little bit of creamy sweetness on top. And then yeah, you've got a juicy kind of fruity, it's really soft and juicy in terms of the fruity hoppy characters, if you like. So yeah, a little bit citrusy into the aftertaste, I would say though, and you do get more of the orange. I was saying Mosaic took a back seat earlier, you know, it does, but you do get a little bit more of the kind of orangey notes coming out of this one the further into the aftertaste that you go as well. But yeah, all in all, really interesting beer, this one, and I do recommend that you have a go of it if you get the chance. I'm not sure if they'll redo it, but I do like how this pieces together. So yeah, let's leave it there. I mean, cool to review another one of these hop around the world beers from Young Master. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Young Master as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the very near future. But in the meantime, check out my social media, check out their social media, and I'll see you guys later. Slàinte, skål, and cheers.